Hi, welcome to Grease Flying Gamer, and on this episode, how do bad games get released? Hi, welcome to the show. If you like what I'm doing, please hit the subscribe button or bit old thumbs up for the like. But mainly on this little episode, I'm going to be talking about how I think bad games get released. It's a bit of a weird one. Just recently I bought a game for the Xbox, the original Xbox, Jaws Unleashed. Basically because I'm a big Jaws fan. So I just picked it up randomly if I was at $5 at a retro game store. And I plonked it in. I wasn't expecting a great deal, let's face it, is a movie license and they're hardly ever any good. But I plugged it in and it just had the worst controls. This damn shark just wouldn't, and the camera it's really frustrating to play. But then got me thinking, how does a game like that get released? I mean, who is putting this onto the market like that? I mean, yes, you can have bad TV, bad movies, but in a sense, yeah, they're shot, then they have to do all the editing and everything else afterwards. But at the actual fact, when everything is shot, that's it. You know, what's gone into the camera is it. But on games, they can tinker around right up to the point of the damn release day these days. So it makes me wonder, how do bad games get through? I suppose it's a bit different between today's games and then bad games in previous years and previous generations. I mean, for the Super Nintendo, a bad game gets released. Maybe it was just a bad idea. Who knows? There's plenty of bad games out there. Or they just never had the funding to do it. So there's a scheduling of money, and obviously they were probably rushed. Because, I guess a developer turns up, I'm going to make that game, okay, here's X amount of money. By the way, I want it released before Christmas. I think was the big one is the big E.T. movie tie-in for the Atari. When I think they only had like fucking 10 or so weeks to make that movie game. Yeah, whereas the movie takes 2 years, they had 10 weeks to actually make the game. So, yeah, you kind of go wonder, okay, some games are rushed, but these days, now, you're talking years in development these days, and yet somehow bad games still get released. Now, I can understand there's bugs and stuff, where you get the flawed graphics, a character disappearing through a wall. Mainly, I think that's down to like coding, which they fix in patches and everything. But then, how do you get bad gameplay these days? I mean, we should know how to make a game good by now. I mean, the programmers, the creators of these developers and games, they've been doing this job for years now. They should know how to do this sort of thing. But of course, the horrible thing, you got the patches now, which I think, are they getting lazy? It's a bit of a weird thing. Are the developers getting lazy because they know they can fix it later? They're trying to rush through maybe a boring aspect to the programming, making sure a character doesn't walk through a wall or his facial animation is correct. Maybe you got bored and they didn't want to spend as much time on that, so they can fix it later. Which means when it's got to be coming down to, I think the main reason why bad games are getting released is scheduling. Now, I look at that and I go, scheduling. Why can't they just release it when it is done and correct and it's been play tested to death? All these companies, all the developers, they got play testers. They must come across these bugs. If they don't, they're crap at their job, or they said it and someone else has overridden them. I get a bit. So I'm still a bit confused. Now, maybe it's money. Maybe they didn't have enough money to spend the time on developing these games. Now, I guess these days a AAA title, you're talking 100 million to make it a game these days. On the lesser ones, basically you're talking millions to make games, unless you're a Kickstarter, which they still want more money. So I'm looking at it, but how does it get released? Someone's got to be going, hey, there's a problem with this game. You know, obviously it's going to affect our sales. Well, maybe all these big titles, the Assassin's Creeds, which is probably one of the main ones that got really bad hype behind how bad it really was. Maybe they just wanted to get the money out there. They relied on the name to sell the game. But then you get things like, even on the N64, Superman, a flawed game by any standards. And yet it got released. Now maybe they just spent too much money on it, and the only way they can try and recoup some of that money is just to get the game out there, hope it sells enough before the word of mouth gets around. But that was down, you know, it was in the early days of the internet, so the word of mouth wasn't as good as or as quick as it is these days. So why is it now? I mean, literally on the day of release, games are reviewed, they're played, they're everything, and everything comes out within 24 hours of this game getting released. Now, I just don't get it. I mean, so it's got to be scheduling timing, trying to get a game out on a certain day, which I think is a really bad idea. You know, a game should be released when it is ready. That's it. You know, movies are different. They're a whole different sort of beast. I mean, you know, the hundreds of millions going into these big blockbusters. They can hire all the people, and again, you can still have stodgy CGI. But yeah, it's an art form that is done. You know, the movie, sorry, doesn't get released until, you know, almost a year after principal photography is finished up. Maybe a couple of reshoots, but other than that, it's done a year ago before it was released. But the games, apart from, they had to finish maybe a month or two so they can print up physical media for it. But that's even nowadays, they've got a digital release. So they can tinker around right up to the day one, the day before. So I mean, it's getting a bit annoying. But then I also got to take my hats off to Rockstar. Yeah, they've just delayed Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, that game was so hotly anticipated that they had to get it right. But this is they do Grand Theft, they do some of the best games out there, and they're a rich studio. Yeah, they can take their time, and they know it's going to sell. So, yeah. So how does a bad game get released? What do you think? Tell me what you think. Me personally, I think it's always down to the money. I don't think anyone intentionally releases a bad game, but obviously someone out there overrides them somewhere along the line, and that's how these silly things get out. So what do you think? Please write in the comments, drop me a line. You know, if you do like these videos, please give me a like or subscribe, and see you next time.